The most famous rescue in blockbuster history was never written. When the Raptors corner the survivors in the final minutes of Jurassic Park, and the Tyrannosaurus Rex comes crashing through the rotunda to destroy them, audiences in 1993 came out of their seats. But that moment does not appear in the shooting script. On the page, no dinosaur comes to anyone's rescue. The person who saves every life in the written ending is a human being, Dr. Alan Grant, the paleontologist played by Sam Neill, who died this month at the age of 78. This is the story of the ending Steven Spielberg threw away. An ending that was written, reportedly storyboarded, and abandoned before a single frame of it was ever shot. It is not a banned ending. It is not secret footage locked in a studio vault, no such footage exists, whatever other videos may promise you. It is something much rarer. It is the final pages of one of the most successful films ever made, torn up at almost the last possible moment. Over the next 17 minutes, we will read those pages, meet the darker ending Michael Crichton wrote first, visit the scenes that were boarded and never shot, and end with the man the written ending belonged to. And once you know what those pages contained, you will never watch the ending of Jurassic Park the same way again. Number 1. The ending on the page. The screenplay of Jurassic Park passed through several hands before it was ready to shoot. Michael Crichton adapted his own novel first, as part of the deal that sold the book to Universal. Screenwriter Malia Scotch-Marmo then reportedly worked on a draft of her own. And finally, David Koepp wrote the shooting script, the version the production actually carried on the set in 1992. It is Koepp's pages that concern us because they end very differently from the film the world knows. After the kitchen sequence, Grant, Ellie, and the two children flee into the visitor center rotunda beneath the great mounted skeletons of the Tyrannosaurus and the sauropod. The raptors follow them in. What happens next, on the page, is a purely human climax. Grant gets the children up into the fossil display, onto the bones themselves, and the skeletons never designed to carry live weight begin to give way. In the script, Grant reaches the museum's construction platform, the hydraulic crane used to assemble the exhibits, and turns it into a weapon. One raptor is destroyed in the collapse of the giant skeleton, crushed beneath the falling bones. And in the script's final confrontation, widely reported accounts of Koepp's pages describe Grant finishing the last raptor himself in one version, using the jaws of the Tyrannosaurus skeleton, the dead king standing in for the living one. Part of that machinery survives into the finished film. Watch the finale again and you will see the children scrambling up into the fossil mount and the skeleton coming apart beneath them, exactly as written. What was removed is what the collapse was for. In the script, the falling bones are the trap Grant springs. In the film, they are simply the wreckage the T-Rex arrives into. Think about what the written ending is doing. Alan Grant begins this film as a man who cannot stand children, a scientist happier with 65-million-year-old bones than with living people. The written ending completes his arc with his own hands. The Bone Man saves the children with bones. The Tyrannosaurus Rex, the animal on the poster, the animal on the logo, the animal on every lunchbox, is nowhere in the scene. The survivors simply reach the Jeep and the helicopter, and the ending belongs entirely to the humans. That is the ending Jurassic Park was supposed to have. And it survived all the way into production before it died. Number 2. Spielberg changes his mind. By most accounts, the decision came during production itself remarkably late for a film of this scale. Steven Spielberg reportedly looked at the ending he was about to shoot and concluded that something was fatally wrong with it. The star of the film was missing from its own finale. The Tyrannosaurus Rex had carried the most terrifying sequence of the picture, the paddock attack in the rain, and then simply disappeared from the story. Spielberg is widely reported to have said, and we mark this as reported, not verbatim, that audiences would hate him if the Rex never came back. That the king of the dinosaurs had to save the day, even if she was saving it entirely by accident, arriving to hunt the raptors and rescuing the humans as a side effect. To understand how bold that decision was, remember what the effects plan for this film had originally been. Jurassic Park was designed around Stan Winston's full-scale animatronics, with the wide, full-body dinosaur shots to be produced by Phil Tippett's team using Go Motion, an advanced form of stop-motion animation. Computer-generated dinosaurs were not the plan. They were an experiment. Then, an early test reel from Industrial Light and Magic, reportedly a walking skeleton, and then a full Tyrannosaurus in daylight changed the film and the industry overnight. Tippett, watching his craft become history in a screening room, is widely reported to have said he was extinct, a line Koepp then wrote into the film itself and gave to Jeff Goldblum. So the pages were torn up, and the problem landed on Industrial Light and Magic. The Rotunda rescue would be an almost entirely digital set piece, full-body computer-generated animals interacting inside a standing set ordered when the schedule had little room left for it. Remember what year this is: 1992. Computer-generated characters of this complexity had never been put on screen before this film, and now the ending itself, the last thing an audience would carry out of the cinema, was being handed to a technology that was being invented as it was being used. The animators delivered, and somewhere in that late redesign, the scene acquired its perfect final grace note. The painted banner reading "When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth," drifting down past the roaring Tyrannosaurus, the park's own advertising collapsing in front of the real thing. The single most famous image of Jurassic Park, the shot on the posters and in every retrospective, is a revision. It replaced an ending that no camera ever saw. Number 3, the scenes never filmed. The ending was not the only casualty. Michael Crichton's novel contained set pieces the production planned, boarded, and then surrendered for budget, for pacing, for the limits of what 1992 technology could deliver. The most famous is the river. In the book, Grant and the children escape downriver on a raft, drifting past a sleeping Tyrannosaurus, and when it wakes, it follows them into the water. In Crichton's telling, it is one of the most sustained terror sequences in the book. The animal swimming behind the raft, only its eyes and nostrils above the waterline, a crocodile the size of a building. The sequence was reportedly storyboarded for the film and seriously considered before being cut in pre-production too expensive, too long for the third act, and beyond what waterwork and effects could reliably deliver on that schedule. The aviary went the same way. The enormous birdcage from the novel, home to the pteranodons, never made it to the screen. Neither did the gentler moments among them, a storyboarded sequence of the children riding a baby triceratops, pure wonder rather than terror. None of this was shot. There are no reels of it, no lost negatives. It exists as boards, drawings, and pages. But here's the part the clone channels never tell you, because it ruins their story. Those ideas did not die. 8 years later, in 2001, Jurassic Park III finally built its centerpiece inside the aviary and put its characters on the river. And the man leading the audience through both of them, returning as Dr. Alan Grant, was Sam Neill. The scenes the first film could not afford became the scenes his last visit to the island was built around. At this studio, missing frames have a way of waiting. Number 4, the novel's darker ending. To understand how radical the film's finished ending really is, you have to see what Michael Crichton originally wrote. The novel, published in 1990, does not end with survivors flying into the sunset while pelicans skim the waves. It ends with the island being destroyed. The Costa Rican Air Force arrives and burns Isla Nublar to the ground napalm, not helicopters and soft light. John Hammond does not board any helicopter. In the book, the park's creator is killed by his own creations. Injured and alone, he is set upon by a pack of Procompsognathus, the small scavengers, and dies on the island he built. Even Ian Malcolm is declared dead in the novel's final chapters, a death so inconvenient once Jeff Goldblum had made the character beloved that Crichton quietly reversed it when he wrote The Lost World in 1995, explaining that the report had been premature. And the trade runs in both directions. Robert Muldoon, the game warden, survives Crichton's novel. It is the film that kills him, and gives the Raptors their most quoted victory in the process. Spielberg and Koepp inverted almost all of it. Hammond was rewritten from a cold, ruthless businessman into Richard Attenborough's warm, heartbroken dreamer, a showman who wanted to give the world something real and could not see the cost until it was standing in front of him. He lives, he grieves, he looks at the amber on his cane and leaves his dream behind. The film does not burn the island, it simply closes the gate. 2 endings, 1 story. The novel punishes its creator, and the film forgives him. Whatever you think of the choice, it was a choice made deliberately. On the page, long before the T-Rex was ever asked to save the day. Number 5. The Man Who Almost Wasn't Grant. The ending Spielberg cut belonged to Alan Grant, and the actor the world remembers in that role very nearly never played it. Harrison Ford was offered the part and turned it down, a decision he has since confirmed publicly, and one he has joked about ever since. William Hurt is also widely reported to have declined. The production worked through its list while the start date bore down on it, and by most accounts, Sam Neill was cast remarkably late, reportedly only a matter of weeks before cameras rolled. Neill himself told the story with typical self-deprecation, saying in interviews over the years that he was far from the first choice and never quite understood his luck, and consider the year he was having. In 1993, the same summer Jurassic Park became the highest-grossing film ever released to that point. Sam Neill was also on screen in Jane Campion's The Piano, the film that shared the Palme d'Or at Cannes. The biggest blockbuster in history and the most celebrated art film of the year, at the same time with the same quiet New Zealander in the middle of both. Almost no actor has ever stood on both of those summits at once. But watch the film and the luck runs the other way. Grant is a difficult part. He has to be flinty enough to be believable as a man who prefers the dead to the living, and warm enough that his conversion, a hand reaching out to a frightened child in a tree, lands without a word of speech. A bigger star brings his own weather with him. Neill brought a working scientist, dusty, dry, quietly decent, a man you believed had spent 20 years in the Montana dirt. It is why the scrapped ending, the one where Grant alone saves the children, was never a stretch. On the page and on the screen, the film always trusted this man to be the hero. Spielberg's rewrite gave the final rescue to the Tyrannosaurus. It never took the film away from Sam Neill. Number 6. Why nothing was left to cut. Here is the strangest fact about Jurassic Park, and the one that quietly disproves every fake, lost footage video ever made about it. For a production of this size, almost nothing ended up on the cutting room floor. The shoot was famously disciplined. Spielberg reportedly brought the picture in around 12 days ahead of schedule, even after a hurricane hit the Hawaiian locations, and the film was cut so tightly to its script that the pool of true deleted material amounts, by most accounts, to only a few brief trims, no lost sequences, no abandoned subplots, one of the smallest cutting room floors of any blockbuster of its era, and Spielberg was barely in the room for the end of it. Weeks after wrapping, he was in Poland shooting Schindler's List, and he reportedly supervised the final stages of Jurassic Park from there, reviewing effects, shots, and cuts across a satellite link, living inside the darkest film of his career by day, and signing off on Digital Dinosaurs by night, with George Lucas reportedly helping to oversee the last of the post-production as a favor to his friend. So when a thumbnail promises you Jurassic Park's banned ending, or footage the studio locked away, understand what is actually being claimed. Footage that was never exposed, from scenes that were never staged, of an ending that was never shot. The missing frames of Jurassic Park are real, but they live on paper, in storyboards, and in a novel. That is where this channel found them, and that is the only honest place to look. The ending the whole world cheered was an act of revision the king restored to her kingdom by a director who tore up his own script rather than end the film without her. But the ending on the page belonged to a man. It belonged to Alan Grant, and for 33 years, Alan Grant belonged to Sam Neill. Neill announced his cancer diagnosis 3 years ago and faced it in public with the same dry good humor he brought to everything. This past April, he was reportedly declared free of the disease, which made the news of his death this month all the more unexpected. He was 78. He leaves behind a career far larger than one film, but for generations of people, he will forever be the man in the hat who looked up at something impossible and took off his sunglasses. The ending Spielberg filmed gave the rescue to the Tyrannosaurus. The ending Koepp wrote gave it to Grant.